picture around, this is the zodiacal belt. 16 degrees, 8 degrees above the ecliptic, 8 degrees below the ecliptic. And it's within that band, that belt, that we find the constellations. And you can see here's Pisces, here's Aries. The cusp of that right here is 0. Here would be vernal equinox. And on the opposite side right here at this cusp would be fall equinox. And here, picture that this celestial equator, again, is moving, causing this point to, both these points, to rotate around in the 26,000-year cycle. So that's kind of hopefully conveyed to you what the mechanics of it is, would be recognized by an astronomer. Here's kind of a simplified version of the wheel, divided into 12 equally spaced divisions around the perimeter of the clock. And we can see that if we look right down here, here's Pisces, Aquarius, and this would be essentially close to where we're at now in an idealized sense. 12,900 years ago, roughly, the vernal equinox was passing out of Virgo into Leo. Over the next 2,100 years, roughly, it passed through the sign of Leo and then came into the sign of Cancer, the crab, followed by Gemini, followed by the age of Taurus. And you'll notice that Taurus and its opposition sign Scorpio are on one limb of the propeller, and then we have Leo, Aquarius on the other, forming this cross. And you can picture that that cross is turning. So you have two equinoxes, and at right angles, two solstices. So as the vernal equinox, of course, is moving, the fall equinox is moving. Likewise, at 90 degrees, you have the summer solstice and winter solstice, longest and shortest days of the year. They're moving. So it's actually this whole propeller that's turning within the wheel, within the sphere of the fixed stars. So when we begin to look at ancient traditions, we find various ways of depicting what we've just been talking about. This is the portal of judgment at Chartres Cathedral, and if we take a closer look, we will see that here are the signs of the four fixed signs of the zodiac. There's Leo the lion and Taurus the bull. The eagle is Aquila, the constellation that rises with Scorpio, marking fall equinox, and Aquarius, represented by an angel. So this is one example of how the doctrine of the great year was concealed in imagery that, when you approach Chartres Cathedral, you can see that this is the entrance, the western facade entrance to the cathedral. And the cathedral, essentially, the concept here is that the facade of the cathedral, as you approach it, it basically gives you a statement as to the symbolism and meaning of the whole cathedral. When you walk into the cathedral, you're walking into a textbook in stone. And right here, as you walk through the portal, you come through the entryway, that whole design up there, that whole pattern of symbolism is like reading the foreword or the preface to a book. You've opened the cover of the book, and here's the preface, giving you a kind of a summary of what the whole teaching is about. And that's what we have right here. And there's several things going on here. We find a vesica. Pardon me? The labyrinth is inside, yes. And I'm going to show you a picture of that coming up. Okay, so here we have the Christ figure is seated within the vesica, which is the basic shape of all of sacred geometry. And above here we see the cross. Now, one of the things that I want you to begin to be aware of is that the cross symbol has always come to represent this idea of the same cross, that great cosmic cross that links the equinoxes with the solstices and symbolizes the great year, the symbol of the great year. It also, of course, symbolizes the four sacred directions because it's a measure of time and space. So here we find the Aztec sun calendar, and there you find that same fourfold division of the wheel. And here we find, again, Ezekiel's vision of wheels within wheels. And there's a lot of symbolism in this, and it's not going to be my intent tonight to talk about that, other than to show you that this recapitulates the same symbolism with these four quadrants right here, which represent the four ages of the Mesoamerican world. Another way that they depicted it. This was to the Incas, and that symbol represented their concept of the fourfold division of time and space. So you have the four cardinal directions. So once you get oriented, see, nature has actually provided us with this cross. This isn't something we invent. If we ourselves have a front and a back, a left and a right. So there is this right-angled orientation. Now, when we orient ourselves to the great geographic cross, we have a north, south, east, and west that are all defined for us by nature. They're there. Nature has given those to us. So then we have the geographic distribution of space into this quadrature that we see here, as well as time. And the archaic worldview did equate time with space, which is something we don't do anymore. We look at them as two separate phenomena. But there are many different ways of depicting the idea. You see, again, the cross. You have the circle within the cross. It kind of gives the appearance of a Celtic cross somewhat. And then we see the four images of the, typically attributed to the evangelists, but the idea of the four zodiacal signs preceded their attribution to the four evangelists. The fact that Mark is associated with Leo, I think, is a clue to, or that Matthew is associated with Aquarius, is actually a clue to some of the inner teachings of those particular early Christian doctrines. Now, let's look at this, okay? Here we see that imagery, and I want you to imagine that if we were able to go out as the Earth is making this grand revolution around like this over 26,000 years, imagine at any given time we could go out and we could take a snapshot of the celestial vault, translate it down, project it down flat, two-dimensional onto the surface of the Earth, and we were to take that snapshot now, halfway through the cycle, 12,960 years from now, and we were to overlay those two maps, what we would end up with is, watch this carefully, and you will see two circles which represent two horizon circles, observations from the northern hemisphere, and you see how it orbits around. There's that magic point I said, the pole of the ecliptic, and you can see that this figure here of the vesica surrounded by the four divisions of space is actually something that nature is inscribing for us through a period of 26,000 years. So here the ancients, watch again.
The charts was created about that time as well.
And the what?
Was charts created about that time as well, 12,900.
Charts. Chart. Oh, chart was built between 1150 to 1230 AD, roughly. About 1,000 years ago. Nah, not quite that much. Yes, Paul.
Randall, B005, could you explain the stances again, like where you're getting those two rotations?
That I just showed you here?
Yes.
That you just saw?
Yeah.
This. Okay. Okay. Again, picture that you're standing on the surface of the Earth, and because of the fact that the Earth has altered its orientation in space by 47 degrees, if you took the sky, projected it onto the surface of the Earth, right? Then, 12,900 years later, the Earth is tilted over. You take that map of the sky, project it, the two would overlap each other, creating this vesica. Does that make sense? Yes, that's what it is. Kind of cool, huh? Oh, you didn't know that? They didn't teach you that in high school? Yeah, so this is out of the Masonic tradition. The celestial vulture or eagle rising and setting with the scorpion was substituted in its place in many cases on account of the malign influences of the latter. And thus the four great periods of the year were marked by the bull, the lion, the man, and the eagle, which were upon the respective standards of Ephraim, Judah, Reuben, and Dan, and still appear on the shield of America.